nice, not very nice, so be precise. It's a shame may cause you pain, so I'll be playing and explaining again.
Wow. You're listening to Friend Zone by Connecticut-based band Deathcode. I recently interviewed bass player and my really good friend John DiCostanzo. He's a father, a business owner, a musician, and he managed to lose over 80 pounds so far in his health journey. In this interview, John and I chat about some of his life, where he grew up, the things he's involved in, and the stressors and events that led to his health issues, weight gain of up nearly 330 pounds. And what led him to finally turning his life around, all while maintaining these things that he's involved in. Plus, he's got a girlfriend too, Mariah, who's really cool and have an amazing health journey herself. It's a long interview and well worth the time to hear our deep dive into what made John a true inspiration. But first, let's crank up this for a bit before we dive right into this episode of Mike Inspires Me.
Dirty little flirt. She's got a tongue ring, she wears pink. She's up for anything if you bring a drink. Except you. She likes the booze. An excuse that she uses to let love. Don't think that you're getting this. You haven't even had a kiss, but Chris just bit her lower lip, so any guy can curl her toes. Even God she barely knows. Never gonna take her home. You're loud in the friend zone.
Well, all right, here we are. This is great. Oh, I'm really excited today. This is awesome. John, I thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story. I am just so impressed. I've been watching you for a while on Facebook and all the posts you've been putting out there about the health journey that you've been on, and yet you are involved in so many things. You're a father, you're a business owner, you've got this whole journey you've been doing, and you're involved in music, 2 bands. It amazes me. Sometimes I look at myself and go, what am I doing? I mean, geez, you've really inspired me, and I know, it's kind of been a mutual thing. So,
absolutely.
Wow. I mean, what else are you involved in that I don't know about?
Running all the time. I'm on a rugby team. Oh it's just I was trying to stay active as much as possible and filling up every minute. It seems like.
Yeah, and you said you ran 20 miles, or walked and ran 20 miles yesterday.
I did.
That's insane. You're out of your mind, and I love it. I love it. That's so good. Well, I think today what I wanted to talk about, I was really excited that you wanted to do this with me, and I wanted to highlight those things that we just talked about. The fact that you've been able to balance this whole life and get healthy, because it's easy to go the other way, and that's probably what helped you get there. And then talk about some of the things that changed where you realized, oh my gosh, this is getting out of control. And why don't we start first, John? Let's tell the folks, you're living over in outside Torrington area.
Right, I live in Harwinton.
Harwinton, okay. And you're originally, you said, from
Norwalk, grew up in Newtown. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about that. I mean, you grew up in that area, and what was it like growing up in those areas there?
So Newtown is a very quiet town. It was when I grew up, at least. It was pretty much a cow town, and my whole family's from Norwalk, which is a city. And when I was very young, my parents decided to move us out into the country. Or we thought. It seemed like it was far away from everything, but it was a great time. It was low key. It wasn't crazy. I made a lot of good friends, but also became very active. Played sports all the time. Got involved in music. It was very prominent in the school system there. I learned at an early age, and that's where I developed my love of that. And then just grew from there. I moved out of that town, back down to Fairfield for a bit, but then ended up in another cow town. That's where Harwinton is. It's a quiet little town, low population, but still close enough to everything. But I love it. It reminds me of where I grew up.
That's great. I mean, so you mentioned the country town too. Do you think growing up in that kind of area has given you that love for outdoors?
Absolutely. I was always outside. We had a video game. We had a new Nintendo, but if I played it an hour a week, that was probably a lot. And I was always outside, always hiking in the woods behind our house, always out riding my bike, always playing with my friends, and or out playing soccer or football or whatever. So, yeah.
That's great. I didn't play sports, but I love being out the woods too.
Mm-hmm.
I just there's something about being out there that just I don't know. It opens your mind. So that's cool.
Yeah. When I was 10, we moved into our second house in Newtown, and we abutted the state forest.
Oh, that's
so.
Good.
Backyard was the entire forest. I would go out by myself for hours at a time, as long as I was home for dinner. That was all that mattered to my parents.
That's so cool. I love that. Or maybe someday I'll be out there too. I don't know. We'll see. Cool. So you've grown up in these areas. You've lived in a couple areas that were a little rural, and you've been living up in in Harwinton for a while, and now you've been running a business
mm-hmm.
that does IT work,
mm-hmm.
and we're skipping over a lot of things in between, which we'll talk about.
Sure.
But I'm kind of leading into something with this, and you're busy trying to do that, and I can imagine that trying to balance that, trying to think about, okay, I'm going to take on this new lifestyle. How did you get to that conclusion in terms of, you probably tried a million times to lose weight, and maybe that's kind of where, you realize, oh, I just can't keep doing this over and over and over.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I was, like I said, I always played sports. I played soccer for 8 years. Then I discovered football, Pop Warner, and then in high school I discovered rugby, and I played 4 years of rugby. Played a little bit in college, and I was always very active. Always ate a lot too. Like I was, fueling a very active body. So pretty much right out of high school, I started with desk jobs. I did IT stuff. I was in finance for a while, personal finance, insurance, things like that. So I went from a very active lifestyle to a very sedentary lifestyle fast. But my appetite didn't change. I was still eating 2 pizzas and drinking lots of beer and stuff like that. So yeah, work was very time consuming for me. I was in things where I was working many hours, and I just never really saw myself getting out there activity wise. But it didn't click with my mind that it was a problem until one day it was. And I graduated at 225.
Okay.
But I was in prime shape. I was running miles every day, playing sports and everything. So it wasn't a big deal. And then I got to the point where I was working, and I had to buy a suit. I was working at a bank, and I was like, "Oh, this is a lot bigger than I remember buying the last suit I bought at." And so I decided at that point, my father and I, because he's a big guy as well,
right?
We decided to do Weight Watchers together. That was 2002. So that was my first foray into, hey, I'm kind of headed in the wrong direction. What's out there? And that was very popular at that time. And so we decided to do that. And I dropped 25, 30 pounds doing that with him.
That's it's interesting you say that because I did a similar thing.
Yep.
And you find that you kind of you get the momentum, and then what happens?
Right. And as soon as you stop, or as soon as you start cheating, or as soon as you go off plan, basically, it comes right back. And I was like, okay, I'm good. I got back to my high school weight. I wasn't too far. I was good. I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. I want to go back to my old ways. And it was something that, in hindsight, I had to go through that stage, but it didn't really work with my lifestyle. It didn't work with, I was not eating things that I like to eat. It just didn't feel very natural to me. So it worked while I was doing it strictly, but it wasn't sustainable for me. So then that that eventually creeped back. 2005 is when I was married, so I got married in 2005. It was at 260, and then it kept creeping up again after that. I had started a new chapter of my life. I started my own company in 2006, and was devoting massive amount of time to that. And So then I had hit 290 something at some point, working 18-hour days. Always said in my mind, I'll have time to work on my health later. I need to build this business, and that's where I really focused. Had family at that point as well. My first son was born at 2007, my second in 2008. And then there was a time when we were planning a vacation, and I was like, well, I want to be, able to go on the rides, because I remember the last time I went to a ride and I had trouble pulling the thing down on the roller coaster to sit in the seat. And I was like, I don't want to be like that guy again, where they had to get somebody else to push the thing down so it clips. And I was like, I love roller coasters. So my father and I said, let's try something else this time. The Weight Watchers didn't stick. Let's do Nutrisystem. So we tried that. Yep. I lost 20 pounds again. Yep. And I felt good, but that's expensive. Yeah. And it's prepackaged stuff. And let me preface it by saying, if it works for people, I'm fine with it. Like, if it works for you, then stick with it. Yep. But it was a lot of prepackaged stuff. You had to still buy vegetables and things, which was nice. I liked having fresh veggies. But ultimately, again, it didn't really work for me, because as soon as you stop buying that hundreds of dollars worth of stuff every month, it doesn't, I fell back off the plan.
It's interesting that people get into some of those things. People ask me about a lot of programs, Isogenics, Herbalife, all that. I've been approached by some of those folks too to even, sell some of their products, which I don't really want to get into because I didn't use anything.
Right.
But you're right. For some people, they work. Yep. You tried it out. Mm-hmm. It didn't sustain you. Right. The thing I always wonder about is, okay, what happens if that company goes away? What are you going to do if you're reliant on it? Right. And hopefully they're teaching people how to, like you were saying, you want to try to learn how to do it yourself. And so now you've lost it again on this program. Yeah. You're feeling a little discouraged by them. Yep.
And then, so I went on the vacation, felt better about going on the rides and stuff. I didn't feel, okay, so I was like, okay, cool, I'm doing good. Yep. Came back, and then on vacation, of course, if you don't have a plan, you splurge and you go out and have cocktails and fancy foods and all the time. And then, so I came back completely off plan and got even worse. Wow. And at one point, I had gotten up to like 330, I think, was my highest. Yeah. And I'd bought a very large pair of pants. I actually posted about the other day. I finally bought my first pair of 46s, which for me was huge. Yep. And I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't want to keep buying bigger and bigger clothes. I mean, at that point, I didn't feel good. No. I obviously didn't look good. And I wasn't setting a good example for my kids. And I was tired all the time. And, work was stressful, which was also not good for someone who's not in shape. Right. And I had seen a picture of one of my friends who actually used to work with me. And his wife posted on Facebook. And he looked fantastic. Oh. Like, he was always a big guy. He's probably 6'4" or something, and he was a large guy, and he was really slim, and he looked happy and he looked healthy. And I said, okay. I sent him a message. I said, buddy, I won't out him. I said, what did you do? Like, what are you doing?
What's that secret?
Right. What are you doing that you look great? And how do you feel? He's like, you'll never believe what I'm doing. And I was like, I just hit me with it. Tell me. And so he said, do you know anything about low carb and keto? And I was like, I've heard of low carb stuff. He's like, go on Reddit and read about keto, the lifestyle. He's like, it's not a diet. It's not Weight Watchers. You're not buying anything. You're buying regular foods, but it's a certain way of eating those foods. I said, okay, I'll check it out. Went on, looked at it. I said, okay, the foods look like stuff that I would like to eat anyways. Bacon and eggs, broccoli, lots of greens. I love vegetable, chicken all the time, some fish, and all stuff that I like to eat anyways. No prepackaged stuff, no supplements, no, things like that. I said, okay, well, what the hell? I might as well try it, right? And at the same time, I had been playing, trying to get back into playing rugby, but at 330 pounds and not being able to run around, I couldn't do it. We had a alumni game at my high school every year. So it was coming up. It was 2 months out from when I started that.
Yep.
So I said, okay, I'm going to start walking around the block of my office every day. I'm going to try this new eating style out. And in 2 months, hopefully I'll be okay. So my goal, honestly, I said to myself, my goal is to not collapse on the field. That was my goal. I wanted to go out and have fun.
No, that's admirable.
And I did not want to die.
Yeah, that's a good goal, man.
Right, that's a good goal. But I said, because I could still chug around, and be miserable and everything, but I want to enjoy it.
So you were a fit fat?
I was a fit fat. Learned that term recently.
Yeah, yeah. So you could move, but the weight was certainly holding you back.
Right, certainly holding me back. Definitely, my endurance was down and everything like that.
Right.
So I started eating that way. Religiously. I cut out everything else, alcohol, everything that I enjoy. Pizza, everything. I said, I'm going to try this for 2 months. What I got to lose, right? And on top of doing
the weight,
except for the weight, and in the meantime, also increase my activity because I had actually a convergence, a synergy, I guess you would say.
Right.
I had moved my office to downtown Torrington.
Okay.
Where there's blocks, so it's easy to measure and easy to go out and walk around the block or walk around 2 blocks. And so then, within 2 months, I had dropped 40 pounds.
Nice.
And I said, I feel really good. I'm below 300. I said, I'm never going back over 300 again. Right? And I said, but I'm in a good trajectory. I had started running in addition to my daily walks.
Wow.
I went to the gym. I was like, okay, I'm going to run half a mile and then walk for an hour. Or, just little by little increasing it. And I just started building that endurance. So then I got back on the field in June for the game.
Yep.
Played the whole game. Felt great. Wasn't super fast, but I didn't lose my breath. I didn't. It wasn't out of shape.
So you're seeing improvements.
Right. And then one of the guys there said, "Hey, there's a men's league for over 35. You should come join." So I was like, "Well, now I have more incentive to keep going with this."
Oh, God.
Aside from other, other incentives like being healthy and being with my boys, they're active. I want to be. I was like, "Okay, I can do this. I can incorporate this in my life instead of going out to eat all the time. I can go to the gym instead.
Yeah.
Instead of spending money on crappy foods, I can go to the grocery store and meal prep and do that. And so I would say I was pretty strict with that for a solid 6 months.
Wow.
I said, I'm going to do this religiously. I did have a couple beers here and there because I love my beer, but
sure.
I cut it way back. I started drinking water every day, a gallon a day.
Right.
I said, okay, I'm going to do this strict. I got down to a point I had never been to, which was below 270 in 8 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And I just kept going. I was like, this is working for me. So, I don't follow it super strict right now. I'm still general principles. And so far, 2 years later, it still works for me. And this is the longest I've been able to sustain, a change in lifestyle. Because I don't call it a diet. It's definitely a change in lifestyle.
Keywords. John, it's amazing to see the amount of motivation that you had. And now I'm going to not push back in a disrespectful way, but I think to help our listeners understand, as great as it sounds, it's hard. I mean, it's hard work, isn't it? And especially the mental part.
Yeah.
I mean, so you touched on some of that, but I'd like to kind of dive into that somewhat because I think that's where they give up, right, is often the discouragement. Obviously, you touched on it a little bit about there were times where you'd slip. What do you do? So you find yourself, I don't know what your thing is. You can tell me, or but that thing happened. You overate something, or you drank too many beers. Yep. How do you use that?
So it's very easy to get discouraged, as you know, and it's very easy. It's not a straight line down. It's not
right.
Sorry, it's not a all roses. 10 steps forwards, no steps back. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of up and down. There are days, the holidays come, you want to enjoy some cookies, you might be putting some pounds on. So I learned early on, and I had come out, I'm now divorced, obviously, and I'd come out of a stressful relationship, and at that point I was kind of like, okay, I'm settled. This is just where I am. But then I started getting into that, and I said, okay, I need to not let this stuff get me down. I need to not let my failures get me down, or my cheats or my off-plan stuff get me down. And I need to even incorporate, giving myself permission to do some things that I really enjoy. Because if I'm just going to be a hard ass my entire life, then I'm not going to enjoy life.
Yes.
So I have to give myself some permissions to enjoy some things that I want to enjoy that are not strictly meal plan and strictly exercise. And I have to drop my expectations of things.
I like that. We talked about that before we got on,
Yep.
and you actually helped me with something. That dropping that expectation, I think people have an expectation of what they think it's going to be like, and then when they fail, and it doesn't happen, it's like, well, I effed up again.
Yeah.
And then it's like you've let yourself down. That emotion drives then what you do next often.
Always.
But you've kind of developed this self kind of positivity type mantra where you're like, okay, I'm going to put a reasonable expectation here, and then when I exceed it, hey, I did awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, when you have a lot of weight to lose, you're looking at a big job here, right? And you kind of took it and said, well, I'm going to take it day by day. And I think even without realizing it, you focused more on building new habits than you did just the weight.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you were trying to lose. I always laugh because when people talk about losing weight, I say, well, what do you want to lose? You could chop a leg off and you're going to lose weight. But you're really trying to reduce body fat.
Right.
Because losing muscle is losing weight too, and losing water, and we talked about that earlier. But you're trying to get healthier.
Yes.
Your kids are obvious a motivation. Yourself is a motivation. And you're starting to put yourself first.
Yes.
That's a big motivator, but it's sometimes a little guilty.
Yes. So that's definitely, I agree with you on that. It is there is potential for guilt there when you say, people say you have kids. Do they come first? There are a lot of people say kids come first. They should come first, things like that. You have that responsibility. My kids are super high on my priority list, but I have to be there to take care of them. So I have to put myself first in certain areas. I have to take care of my health, because if I'm not around, if I'm not healthy, I can't take care of them. So that's definitely part of my strategy, is that I need to be here for these guys, and I want to not just be here. I want to be an active participant in their life, and in order to do that, I have to take time for myself to make sure I am healthy enough to go the distance. And it was something I actually learned when I was a firefighter in Newtown and an EMT for 9 years. And one of the things they teach you when you're learning about going in with a crew to a burning building, or you're going to rescue somebody or something like that, is that if you're incapacitated, if you can't take care of yourself and people have to go in and rescue you, you've now become a liability. So you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure you're safe. Then you have to make sure your team is safe. Then you can make sure other people are safe, people that are trapped or something like that. But if you go in recklessly and become another victim, you're not helping anybody. And so I learned that when I was 17, 18 years old, and I've carried that through with my life with just about everything. And I think it really applies to this situation now. If I don't take care of myself and focus solely on taking care of other people, not integrating, I need to integrate it, but solely on taking care of other people, then that doesn't do anybody else any favors when I drop dead.
Wow. Yeah. As we're talking about that, I think about where you started to give a crap about yourself, and I think a lot of my friends that talk to me kind of question that, say, well, why should I care? And obviously you have this list. Some of the listeners here may not have kids. They may be alone. And, you also kind of got back that I want to live again. I want to do things. I want to enjoy myself and get out and play sports or whatever it is. It could be simple things or part of your career as it was at the time, which taught you about the importance of I'm no good to anyone else if I can't even move, function in a safe manner. I could be a liability to my job. Mm-hmm. And that's important. But the other thing that I really think is important is you deserved to be happy. And you probably weren't.
Faked it.
Yeah, fake it. But you also probably had to fake it to kind of get around feeling that way at first, because, and I don't know if maybe it was one or the other. I don't know. Did you say, okay, I'm going to have a good attitude about it, or how did you feel? Or did you just feel like, well, I'm just going to do this and see what happens?
I've always been an optimistic person, sometimes overly optimistic.
Right.
But yeah, I just did what I had to do.
It's serving you.
Powered through it. I will say too, though, having a strong support system, which I did not have my whole journey, has made a big difference as well. Because it's one thing to do it yourself,
right?
And I honestly did the work myself. Obviously, you've done your work yourself,
right?
And nobody can do it for you. No one can lift the weight for you.
Or motivate you, really,
right? But having people around you that can sympathize or can empathize, that can say, yeah, I went to the gym today too and kicked my own ass, and it hurt, but I did it. Or I meal prepped with you, or next to you, or hey, let's do water, and I've built that network.
Or how about the struggles
and sharing the struggles?
I think that's important, and you know why it's important, because you feel isolated and alone. Now, as you pointed out, I really been trying to let my listeners know this, because I really, on my whole journey, didn't use anybody. I was reading blogs and such, but in retrospect, it probably would have done myself better had I had more of a support system from the onset. And I really advocate that. Now, some personalities like mine, who are one of those, I'm going to do it my own dang way, it can help, but I don't know that everybody can. And that support system is crucial, because you do feel isolated. Sometimes you wonder if you're going crazy, because, like people like us who love to eat, which I want to explore that a little bit more with you, because we love to eat.
Yes.
I mean, and that's how we get here. But sometimes I wonder to myself, is like, am I alone here?
Yeah.
And I don't like feeling like that, because, you don't know how to handle certain situations. These people, these support people, not only can kind of encourage you, but they can kind of give you different ideas about stuff that they're doing. Doesn't mean you're going to try it. Like you said, there's different ways. Some things work for you. You tried out this keto thing. You'd never heard about it. And it's like, it at least looks enticing. And then it seemed to work. Now, of late, and you've probably seen, there's been criticism about long-term use of it. And I wonder how much you think about it. Not to put you on the spot, but it is something that we're aware of. And it's something that any diet, people look at, there's criticisms of all the diets that people are on.
Yep.
What would you, if somebody was asking you for diet advice too, as in your support system, what would you say as far as, you might know where I'm leading to this, even though you subscribe to it.
Right. It doesn't mean that it's right for everyone.
Right.
I think that consistency and commitment are the keys, right? So I think that whatever works for you, if it's keto, if it's low carb, if it's vegan, but not necessarily mean healthy, right?
Exactly.
If it's whatever program you subscribe to, and when I say program, I don't necessarily mean a formal program, but whatever you decide to subscribe to, is, as long as you're consistent with it,
right,
and it's working for you, then go for it. Because the best program is the one that you do.
Yeah, and I think that, it may take some experimentation. It sounded like you did. You tried Weight Watchers, and you tried some other programs, Right. And now you found one that seems to work. And despite, people may have their opinions or criticisms on it, hey, you know something? It's working for me. I feel healthy. It's changing my life.
Yep. Yeah, and I get my annual physical. I got last year when I got my blood work. It was the best blood work I ever had in my entire life, and I had been.
All right, brother.
Thanks. I had been doing it for a year.
That's the important stuff.
So to me, that said a lot. So whether it's something that is sustainable for years and years and years or not, I'm gonna get checked every year and see what it looks like. But I know my blood pressure was down. I know that all my levels were in the green. I had no worries. My doctor was very happy with what I was doing. So
That's the stuff that's, people don't. I remember when I went and got my blood test too, and blood pressure and all that, and it was in the normal range, and I went out in the parking lot and cried because it was like I'd never had that before.
Right.
I finally didn't get the lecture.
Right.
Isn't that just?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost better in some ways than the scale.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely better than scale, because that's the other thing too is and you probably did it in the beginning, or maybe you didn't, but I'm sure that you probably thought about it, and I know I did. I said I want to be under 200 pounds. I said that's my goal. I said I want to be 190 consistently, and that's where I want to hang out. Because that, to me, that means that I was able to hit a goal that I hadn't done since high school, since middle high school, and be in shape. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the longer I get into this, the number is just the number, right?
It's a number.
If I get to 200 and I feel great, and I'm ripped, and I'm running around, then I stay at 200,
right?
But it's a goal, though.
But you had to set a goal.
Yes,
absolutely. I did the same thing. I set one that was pretty low, and I found out I don't think it's worth me getting there.
Yeah, yep. That's okay though, because you adjust. You get to where you're comfortable.
It's not a straight line,
right?
And folks, that's one of the things. John and I have been talking about this beforehand, and it's something that I think is a mystery to people. You set these goals, and as you adjust along the way, you find sometimes you got to change the plan a little bit. But as long as you keep focusing on improving, keep focusing on the main importance, which is your overall health and your happiness. Right. You could be healthy and miserable.
Right. Yes, you can. And a lot of people are.
Right. So, and that's, I think if you can find a balance, because you could be working your butt off or eating, like you said, John, and I like that you mentioned that. You could micromanage your food, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not sure exactly how you said it, but it was along the lines of, you got to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Yes.
Because you didn't stop loving, I don't know what the XY, cake or whatever it is that you love. Beer. You didn't stop loving beer. Right. And so you didn't give it up. There were some things that you had to give up.
I had to give up beer, daily,
right?
But and that's another thing where I feel really blessed right now. I'm with a wonderful woman right now, and we both share a love of fitness, health, eating right, and visiting breweries. So we have combined this thing, and Mariah, who you've met, is more on target with the exercises and the food plan and everything, but we keep each other going, and we keep each other on point. And if one of us screws up, it's okay. We say, you know what, it's okay. Tomorrow we do better. But then we allow ourselves, and if we go on a trip to Vermont, we like to go to Vermont, we hit a couple breweries. Right. And we share a beer as opposed to each of us getting 2 or 3 beers. So that's what I would have done in the past. I would say, okay, I'm going here and having a couple beers. I'm going here and have a couple beers. We go to a place, we split a flight, which is, equivalent of 1 beer, and we move on. Yeah. So we still get to enjoy things that we enjoy, but we get up every morning, we go for a run, or we do a workout in a hotel room if we're in a hotel. We will meal prep together. So we say, hey, does this work for you? Does this work for me?
Right.
And
yeah.
So we're not denying ourselves something that we enjoy. We're just putting it in its right place.
I like that. Yeah. It doesn't have to, healthy doesn't have to be boring. And I think that's, people get scared. I don't want to eat salads all day. And, and so you said you always liked vegetables, but was there anything you had to kind of learn to like, or you just basically kind of changed the proportions and volume of what you ate?
I think that has been my biggest change is portion control. Okay. Because don't get me wrong, I always liked cakes and sweets and things like that. But when I would gravitate to eating food, it was a steak. Instead of a 4-ounce steak, I want a big steak. I want the what do you call it? The cowboy cut 22-ounce steak. And instead of a cup of broccoli, I want 2 whole heads of broccoli. So I love good food, quote unquote good food, but nothing's good if it's too much, right? Sure. So I had to learn how to control that and what my body really needed, as opposed to what I wanted to keep shoveling into my mouth. Yep. And so I think that I've learned to appreciate more nuances of, how can I still get what I like, feel satisfied, but not have to keep constantly putting food in my face. And I've noticed that as I've portion controlled, as I've meal planned, and said, okay, well, I'm going to do a meal plan for the week. I'll do all my cooking on Sunday, put it all in containers. Yep. Yeah, it takes a few weeks to get into that mindset. But then I realized, that's all I need. and I tried different spices. I try to do a lot of different foods.
You shake it up a little bit. Yeah.
I think that in the beginning, again, when I thought about eating healthy, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be eating, garden salads, which are unfulfilling to me.
Right, me too.
And I said, you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. I told you recently before the show that I made my first vegan meal.
Yeah.
I had promised Mariah's mother I was going to cook her a meal, and we decided on this vegan meal. And it was probably one of the best meals that I've ever had, and there was no meat involved. And I'm a meat eater. I'm a carnivore.
Oh my gosh! How did you survive without meat? How do you get your protein? How do you?
Right.
Oh my gosh!
There are ways.
It's food, people.
Right.
It's food.
Yeah.
And so you experimented with something you hadn't done before,
right?
And it's healthy and enjoyable.
Yes.
A little different, and you'll probably try it again, right?
Oh, absolutely. That recipe is in my cookbook, and I'm more open to trying more vegan style or vegetarian stuff, as opposed to having to have meat in my meals every meal. I'm never going to give up meat.
Right.
But it doesn't mean I can't have more that, especially if it's fulfilling. And that particular meal was very fulfilling, and I wouldn't have thought of that probably a year ago.
I was talking to a doctor the other day. I'm reading his book.
Yep.
And one of the things we talked about, we were comparing notes on what we eat, and he used the word flexitarian. Have you heard this word?
No.
Okay. So I don't like labels for myself. I don't like to call myself anything. I eat a little different, but I tend to move towards plant-based foods. And oh my gosh, Mike, you're a vegetarian? No, I eat meat too. During the week at work, I eat plant-based meals, usually vegan, I guess you would call it. And yet I eat meat. And it's like, well, how or why would you do that? Because I'm flexible.
Right.
To me, it serves my health to vary what I'm eating, but at the same time, there's certain foods that, are clearly better for your, more nutrients, and, if you eat the same thing all the time, you're going to get bored and stuck in a rut. And when we have these labels on it, we get these ideas, like you said, I'm going to be eating salads all the time. No, it doesn't mean that. You already probably ate butternut squash before.
Yep.
But it's like, wow, this could be a meal.
Right.
Yes, it can be a meal.
Right.
That's fine. A lot of people do these meatless Mondays and some of these other things. So you did this. It tasted great. Now you've got this taste of, what this vegan movement is, and how is it? So is it kind of changing your view of the way you're seeing food and meals, and are you finding that there's a whole range of opportunities you didn't think of for health before? Because I think people really think when I'm eating healthy, I'm limited. And now it's like, well, wait a second. It's not about limiting.
Right.
It's just making choices. You can still, we talked about this. We like to eat a volume of food, and you still do.
Yes.
It's probably a lot less, but you can still get full, but of the right things.
Right. And I think that, again, early on in the journey of what I'm doing, what I was doing, I'm a numbers guy. I like crunching numbers. I like seeing science. I like hearing different viewpoints, even if it's something that I don't think is correct. I still want to hear what people have to say. And, one of the other things I learned early on is that if you're eating the right things, you don't have to eat as much. Your body becomes satisfied sooner. If you're filling up with empty carbs, or junk foods basically, then your body's going to want to crave more to put in your face because it's not getting the nutrients that it needs. But if you eat nutrient-packed foods, whether they be different kinds of vegetables or meat or whatever it happens to be, you're going to feel fuller faster because your body's getting what it needs and is hitting those receptors in your stomach that's sending the message to your brain that you don't need it anymore. So that was a huge thing. So I can still do experiment and try different things out. It's made me say, okay, well, how do I cook this okra, or how do I cook, this with Swiss chard, right?
Fantastic.
Things that I never would have bought before, because it's a variation, but I can learn how to incorporate that and what kind of nutrients it gives me, and so.
You're bringing up some things as I'm thinking about, and as I'm kind of writing the book for my weight loss, I'm seeing patterns in people who are successful, and I'm hearing the same words from you that I've heard in folks who have long-term success in their weight loss. And some of what it is learning about the foods that they're eating and educating themselves. The meal prep, the setting up a schedule, and also kind of the way you're viewing it, because you had this long-term view of, I'm going to do this now, and then I got to have a long-term view of changing habits. It's not a diet. It's not a short-term thing. It's a whole lifestyle, which you use that word, and that's really the key. I think where in the past we've probably hurt ourselves is looking at, I'm going to go on a diet, and then I'm done. And you're like, well, wait a second. No, I got to change habits. But there are some key things in the words that you're saying that I hear. The meal prep. Almost everybody I know who's had long-term success in losing large amounts of weight, meal prep. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. I mean, it takes time. But in the long run, I mean, I use the word health is an investment in your future. Mm-hmm. And time is important. I don't have the time to work out. Okay? I hear you. But you got to look at some of the things differently. And you took a different mindset. You kind of said, well, my kids are very, very important, but really in the chain of me getting up in the morning, my health is number one because I'm not any good with them. These are key things, John. And I'll be honest with you. When I listen to other people, and I hate to set a bleak sort of picture. I'm probably the pessimist sometimes on some of these things. We can be the yin and yang here. But when I don't hear those things, I start to wonder if people are really going to have success. I mean, anybody can lose weight. It's I hate to say it's not hard, because it is, but the harder part is the maintenance. And I'm so happy to hear you're catching on to some of these things that I'm seeing consistently with people. People don't want to accept that I'm going to have to always think about what I eat. When you start educating yourself, and that's the other thing that you did that's important. I mean, some people have, I don't know, let's just say classic cars, and they'll go out and they'll spend money on putting high-grade oil in it, high-grade gas, and these type of things. But they don't think about the stuff they're shoving into their pie hole. Mm-hmm. And, wouldn't you think, it's hard because it takes a mindset when you start realizing that over time, I mean, you can, eat one piece of pie and, okay, you don't die from it. It's a long-term process. And the next thing you know, you were 330 pounds, and it's like, right. Holy shit, what happened? And, it takes time to get there. My friend Vance the other day said that, and he says, you got your whole lifetime to get back, yep. And it sounds like you're starting to realize that there's this path on the way back. It's not I love that you're saying the straight line. That's another thing that people get scared of. It's like, you're gonna F up. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. And you already say, hey, and you got this attitude. I know I'm going to do it. And, I set this bar at a reasonable level so that when I jump over it by a mile, and dude, this is the thing I love about you. You're jumping way over this bar, 20 miles or something. I'm like, oh my God. When you texted me that earlier, I was like, this dude is crazy. I love him. He's just crazy. But, it's going to take crazy people to change the world. And you're taking it now because you're living your life. Don, the biggest thing that makes me happy in all of this and all the work that I'm doing now is seeing a smile on people's faces. When I first met you and then I started seeing your posts and I saw the look on your face, okay? And it wasn't just pride and, hey, look at me. You're alive. And I mean, and it's not that, okay, I'm not talking about alive and dead. I mean living. Mm-hmm. There was a point maybe that you were existing. Yes. Bad marriage, I don't want to label that. It sounds like it was divorce.
Let's say stressful.
Yeah, stressful marriage. Trying to run a business and that, and it was probably a point you were just kind of going through the motions, and you just getting through the day. There was no John really. It was just kind of.
Yeah, I had. I definitely built. I was in the throes of building a business. I had given up music, for the most part. I hadn't picked up an instrument in years, and I wasn't working out, I wasn't playing rugby, I wasn't doing anything of that nature. I was just basically what you said. I was existing. I was, I thought I was having fun, and I was. I hung out with friends all the time and stuff like that. But it wasn't living,
thriving.
It wasn't thriving. It wasn't. It wasn't doing anything near what I'm doing now. And realizing what is important to me, and what I could be doing. Because I said, okay, well, this is what my life is going to be, and I was okay with it. Well,
Yeah.
I thought I was.
You settled.
I settled. Yeah, and it's okay. I'm not gonna play any more music. That was it. That actually was a huge killer for me. I think as soon as I started playing again, it made a big difference in my life.
John, because it's you, man. I mean, and that's how we met. So you guys have watched me. I'm a big crazy metalhead. That's how I met John, another fellow metalhead. We went to Judas Priest last year, brother. Right?
Yep.
We had a good time with that, and I'll talk a little bit more about music too, because that's part of the reason I love hanging out with you guys, because it's just awesome. And I love the fact that you've been able to balance some of this stuff. You bring so much positivity to what you're doing. You're showing people that, hey, I've got all these things going on. It's not, and you don't do it in a boastful way. That's the other thing. It's not like, haha, for me, look at my life, it's so great or anything. Because obviously there's struggles. Obviously there's that. But you made a choice, okay, to be happy. You choose it every day. It's not easy. Going through divorce is probably one of the hardest things somebody can ever do in their whole life. It's horrible. Living with health problems that you had are not easy. Raising 2 young boys and going through a divorce is not easy. Running your own business is not easy. Trust me, I'm trying to start my own too. And it's like, sometimes you're scared, you don't know what you're doing, but you're making choices. Because at this point, it's like, all right, I can give up and settle. And then you started to say, well, I don't know, maybe there's another way. And that's what you talked about, right? I like that we kind of talked about that transition, the person that inspired you, that you saw, and he's like, okay, I'm going to try this out. And, you tried to seemed to work. And now here you are, and it's like you're paying it forward to people. And you're not even completely done with your journey either. And that's, you're still, you told me, I don't know what you want to say, 60, 75%, or
60 more.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a numbers guy, so did you calculate it yet?
Yeah. And honestly, I had seen people posting their journeys on Facebook. You obviously one of them. Yep. You were a big inspiration to me.
Oh shucks.
No, but seriously, yourself and a couple other people that I value their journey as personal inspirations. And I said, okay, I'm going to be publicly accountable. I think accountability is an important thing. Mm-hmm. And I said, if these people can put themselves out there like this, then I can do it too. And like you said, I'm not necessarily doing it for look at me.
I've never gotten that impression.
No.
Never.
But at the same time, I'm saying, hey, hold me accountable.
Right.
Like I'm holding myself accountable. I have no excuses.
Yep.
So anybody can do it in private, and I did it for many years in private.
Right.
But by putting it out there and telling everyone, hey, here's what I'm doing.
Right.
Then I have to, I'm holding
you got to live up to it.
I got to live up to it. And by doing that as well, one of the side benefits, and it really is, it still amazes me when people, I get text mail, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
I get texts or a Facebook message or an email or a phone call saying, hey, I see all your posts and it made me want to go to the gym. Or I see all your posts and I started eating better, or I stopped smoking. Or one of my lifelong friends called me up the other day, 2 weeks ago, and he said, I see you go to the gym every day, or almost every day, or I see you working out, I see you always running and everything. He's like, I started running. I hired a personal trainer. He's like, and a person who was in the same boat as me as far as didn't eat healthy. He's a smoker, so I didn't have that, but he had that going against him. He works insane amount of hours, more than I ever did. Yep. But another person who had excuses to say, well, I'm just too busy to take care of myself. But he said that, seeing me being able to do it inspired him to do it. And that's just such a good feeling, like I don't know how to say it, like someone who I've grown up with, I've known since I was 10 years old. telling me that I helped get them motivated to go out and take care of themselves is huge. And I put that out there all the time. Every time I post, like I posted a transformation picture the other day.
I know. Oh man, that smile! Every time you get me, John. Every time I was, oh, look at that smile.
But I say to everyone, I if you want me to come run with you, I'll do it. You want to come to my house and work out in my gym with me? Let's do it.
He means it, guys.
And I'm totally out there. I am always looking for new opportunities to do things. And sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. But I want to support people who want to support themselves. I think that's the other key too. Is that I can't go to the gym for you.
Right.
I can't put the food in your mouth.
Right.
But if you want to do it, I'll do my best to help.
Yeah, and and people just got to try. I mean, it's. Sometimes I wonder, it's like if you just at least give it a chance and see how it feels. But sometimes people aren't there either. And we're not here to try to convince people. I mean, we're showing results to show that it can be done, right? And it's not to be in people's faces. It's not to brag. I think sometimes people look at it and feel it's unattainable. Well, oh, John, you're just lucky. You're just, and it's like, well, no.
Pull up the old Obi-Wan. There's no such thing as luck.
I know.
It's the Force.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh yeah. And I get people coming to me, asking me questions like, how can I help my brother lose weight, or this one or that one? And it's like, well, they got to be in a place ready to do that and ready to commit. You can't convince anybody to do it. I mean, when people are big and they have health problems, they want to change their situation, but I think something has to click. We talked about that with you. It clicked with you. It doesn't always happen right away with certain people, but the thing that once you get into this momentum, and I remember when that happened to me, where I was like, I actually wrote an article on this. It's called "Inspiring People Gives Me Fuel," and I was just like, I was something I didn't expect, and it sounds like you were a little surprised too. And it just makes you want to keep going, because it's like, well, now I got a responsibility. I don't want to let my fans down, right? And sometimes I just feel like, I don't want to say I feel like a sham, because guys, I don't want you to feel like that about me. But sometimes I just feel like, I'm just doing what I do. I'm not like magical or anything. I'm just a regular guy. But I do have some knowledge in terms of what I've done and some of the mind things. And you had to go through a lot of mind things to kind of transition that. There's physical work and there's a lot of mental work, because, we talked about this earlier too, before the show, was, a lot of people struggle with emotional issues, why they're eating. And I liken it to me. I'm just talking for me. I don't. Some people kind of get a little uptight about when I say this, but I have had, and I still have, emotional struggles, and I often turn to food, sometimes substances in the past. I've had trouble with alcohol too, and I had to learn things to kind of manage it. And that's what you're setting now, is you're learning, you realize you got to know yourself, and as we get older, we find that our body's not acting the way it used to anymore. Stuff doesn't, and actually I've gotten some interesting questions on that one too. Okay. We talk about later. So I've got to ask some, this is an adult show, we could talk about later, but people have asked me questions about, stuff. But aside from that, it's that stuff that you didn't think about that's kind of keeping you going. And I mean, a lot of people don't want to share their personal business. They don't want to, and I was that way. I didn't, I didn't put my journey out there, and I put it about, I'm going to say halfway through. And then it was like, that's where it just skyrocketed. I was like, holy shit, you lost 120 pounds. And I'm like, yeah, I've been just kind of working on it. And then that's when the click to me, it was like, this is bigger than me, right? Did you ever start it's bigger than you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that obviously you start for yourself, right? But if you can pass that on, if you can set a good example and you can offer help where it's wanted, then you can pass that on. You can pay it forward to, especially to the people that you care about,
right?
I care about my family. I care about my father, who has started his journey.
Yeah.
I care about my kids and setting a good example and helping them start those habits now, so they don't have to get to 300 plus pounds and then work backwards. So things like that. My friends that have, like you said, that have said that I've inspired them. I want first and foremost to help the people I care about, but anybody else that can see that it's possible. If it helps them, then I feel grateful for being able to do that.
I love that. And I'm looking at a world right now where, there's still a lot of people out there that struggle, but we're seeing stories out there, and I'm not putting any of them down. I think sometimes they always paint just the rosy picture. You've been very transparent, and that's great, because I think where we can also talk the realistic, and this is what Mike inspires me all about, is really just trying to paint a realistic picture about what it takes to get there, not trying to sugarcoat it. At the end, it is the work that we put into it. It far exceeds the struggle part that's in it. But hey, if you're already struggling every day anyways, life is a struggle. I mean, your problems don't suddenly go away when you suddenly, change things about your life. Your mentality's better now. Your health is better now. Your confidence is better now. You're able to handle these things that come up in life. I was trying to struggle for a word. I was going to say something else, but but shit happens.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it doesn't just magically go away. I mean, you're going to have days when you're depressed, but the thing is, when you're physically I'm sure you're finding this now. It's like, well, it's not that bad now that I'm taking care of myself.
So one thing I would definitely say, and it was solidified in a book I read recently, is the consistency, right?
Yep.
Is once you get the momentum going, and I read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It was recommended to me by Mariah. She read it. She lives by it. And that consistency, he likened to when you're a kid and you have the little merry-go-round spinny thing, all your friends pile on it, right? In the beginning, you're running and it's hard. You're pushing and it's trying to get up momentum. And it's hard. And sometimes you slip in the mud and it stops and you have to start again. But once it gets spinning and you jump on, it's easy to maintain once you get going.
Right.
And I look at this exactly the same.
That's a great analogy, man.
It's you start. And sometimes it gets harder in the beginning. You're like, okay, I'm gonna be accountable now. I'm gonna take responsibility. And you might have a down in the beginning.
Right.
It might be harder. You're digging in. It's rusty. It's you don't know what to do. And life gets hard before it gets easier. But once you get in that momentum, and once you get consistent, even if you start small, say you drink soda every day, drink one less a day, replace it with water, replace it with seltzer water,
Yep.
Replace something, eat one less hamburger, have one less cigarette, it could be minuscule, but if you start that momentum, then it gets easier, and then you can add something else onto it. I have a journal that I keep. I started at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for a couple years now.
Yep.
But at the beginning of the year, I said, I'm going to track daily activities because I'm going to be accountable to myself even more than I already am. So I started on January 1st, and I write new ones every day. January 1st, I want to do... I started a push-up and a sit-up challenge.
I've been seeing that. Is that the dice and stuff?
That's a different thing.
That's a different thing.
So I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But I started a push-up and challenge and sit-up challenge. So I have a group of friends that said they want to do it. We have a private Facebook group, and anybody can come, just so you know. Every day we add one more push-up and one more sit-up. So we're up to day 73 today.
Oh, my gosh.
So everybody does 73 push-ups and 73 sit-ups every day. Tomorrow will be 74.
Are you doing them in a row, or like? Or
no, you can break it up. You can break it, but
right.
for that day, you have to do that many. So we're going to get all the way to December 31st and be doing 365 in one day.
Holy mackerel!
So I said it. So I started checking that off. So I put those on, and then for Christmas, one of the things Mariah got me were the two dice that you see. And I feel like I'm going to start selling these. I should pick up a bunch of them sell, because every's asked me, where do you get these things?
Really?
And I'm going to say, me. You can get them from me, but
nice.
not yet. Go find them on Amazon.
Right.
But I roll those every day. I roll both dice, and I add those to my thing. It's just a little extra.
It just adds a little flair, a little,
and it's different. It mixes it up, So I started doing that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go for a run every day. So I still am trying to get my certain amount of steps in every day, which right now is around 20,000 a day minimum. But I said I'm going to run at least a mile a day.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm going to run 3 or 4 or 5, 10 miles, but I want to run at least 1 mile a day to keep my cardio.
Right,
going.
you set yourself a goal. Yeah.
And then I was saying before, I do my workouts. I do Beachbody workouts. I've gotten involved with that. Woo. And so I started with Insanity, and that was really what kicked me off.
What a place to start, too, brother.
Right. Woo. That's what people say. You sure you want to start with that one?
Yeah.
And I did. And I was doing that last summer, and got really into it.
Yeah.
And then I said, so sometimes I do a 10-minute yoga on Beachbody. Sometimes I do an hour and a half lifting session.
Right.
But I try and do something every day. I've added meditation in. I've added tracking my food in my journal. So my journal list gets longer and longer for what I do by the day, and I don't hit them all every day.
Right.
So, but I give myself permission to say it's not okay to check every box every day, and I drop my expectations.
But you have a minimum somewhere in there.
I got to do my dice. I got to do my push-ups and sit-ups.
Okay, so you got to get you set yourself a baseline,
right?
And then if you exceed it,
right,
that's that mantra you have.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're not so. I like guys. So what John and I talked about, just to make sure, because he and I are kind of speaking in code here. He kind of sets himself a baseline. Is the way he described it a little differently, but he usually exceeds it. He doesn't expect that. He's always going to do the run. He's not going to always do all the the insanity or whatever in a day. But he's getting his minimum, and he's usually exceeding it anyway. So, but I think that's when you set yourself up for success, then you're more likely to want to keep going.
Right. I think it's a way of changing. Really, it's like a 180 of looking the way you approach things. Right. So people look at, okay, I'm going to do this every day. Right. And setting a 100% success rate is impossible. Yeah. People can do it for certain periods of time, but nobody can do it forever. Nope. You're going to have a bad day. I had taken Kempo for a few years with the boys, and our sensei had said something to the effect that you don't know when you wake up if you're going to be weak or strong. So you have to learn how to handle yourself no matter what, because you can overpower someone if you're strong on a good day.
Right.
But if you're not good, you have to learn. You have to be able to handle yourself. So I feel the same thing with this. If I say I'm going to run 5 miles every day, and one day I don't do it,
right,
I can kick myself and say, I didn't do it. I failed. I'm going to give up on this because I missed one day. Instead, flipping it around and saying, I'm gonna say, if I run anything today, I'm happy, and whether I run 1 or 5. So I drop my expectations as much as possible. Sometimes you have expectations, but you can't get over that. That's human. But I try to drop expectations as much as possible, and that way I am happy for the things I accomplish instead of upset about the things I didn't accomplish.
My gosh, that's. You know what Terry says to me, and I love Terry. I'm going to write a book someday of her sayings, but she has a saying. He got to meet Terry tonight, my crazy wife.
She's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I can't live with her and can't live without her, yada, yada. She says something's better than nothing, and I like that mantra, too, because it's the same kind of thing, a little differently phrased, but it's kind of like, you're getting out there and you're just doing something. You set yourself that baseline, and then it's like, because like even when I work out, too, I'll go downstairs, I do crazy, like I do shoulder presses with 50-pound dumbbells. I know I'm insane, but I'll do that. But some days I can't. And it might be maybe I didn't get good sleep or whatever. But I still go down there. I still show up. I think Vance might even talked about showing up too. And I show up and I stay in the routine. Yes. And that sounds like what you're doing. Yeah. It's more important that you stay in the routine. You're setting yourself sort of a habit.
Yep.
So that you're getting in there and you're just getting your body used to it. I mean, because you're feeling good, that's why you're consistently exceeding, but you're constantly rewarding yourself with that exceeding it. Yeah. That's crazy, right? Like you said, it's just like this mind trick almost.
Yeah. It totally is. It's you kind of got to fake it till you make it. That's part of it, right? We talked about that.
We're going to patent that one.
And I think that the other thing is that you just got to start. You just got to do it because you're always going to find a reason why now is not the good time. Now is never the good time to start anything right now.
Yes,
it's never
amen,
good
brother.
right now. So if today's not good, if tomorrow is not good, if you're waiting for something, just start. So if you can't run a marathon today, you run a mile today.
Right.
Nobody can run a marathon just day one.
No.
So you can't say, well, I'm going to be ready. Well, I'll run the marathon when I can run 26 miles. No, people don't do that. People work up to it. They run 3 miles, 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles. Maybe they're not running a full marathon every day, but they practice and then they just go do it.
John, I think this is a good time, if you don't mind sharing the story of your father a little bit. So that's a perfect example of something like that, right? If you don't, do you mind sharing?
Yeah, I'll share. So, my father's a large Italian man.
Yeah.
Always been in fairly good shape, except for big belly. Just you picture an Italian guy. That's him. But always was a physical laborer. Like he owned a painting company for with my uncle for 40 years almost, I think. Was always working on things in the house and the car. Always doing physical stuff. But he got bigger. He was it was like 160, 170. Graduated high school. He was telling me he used to love to play basketball, everything.
Yeah.
But over the years, as these things happen, he got out of shape and put on a lot of weight and everything. And as you've heard earlier, as I said earlier, we did Weight Watchers together. We did Nutrisystem.
I love that.
We've tried a bunch of different things together.
Right.
And one of the tags I use on one of the hashtags I use on Instagram and Facebook is through hike, because I had said one time in my life, sometime in the future, not now, I want to through hike the Appalachian Trail. It's something I've always wanted to do.
You guys know that piqued my interest, right?
Hike with Mike, hike the Appalachian Trail with Mike.
Oh yeah.
But it's 2,100 miles from Amicalola and which is where the hotel is that you start from in Georgia. It's 7 miles from the first mountain.
Oh my gosh, he's already researched
all the way up to Mount Katahdin, right? And the best time to start is the beginning of March, so that way you avoid the bugs, you avoid some of the weather, but you're not trudging through snow in the north. So I said, I'm going to do this. I said, I'm definitely going to do this. I don't know if it's going to be in 2 years or 10 years, but I'm going to do it because it's something I always wanted to do. And then if I get through that, maybe I'll do the Pacific Coast Trail and the Triple Crown, and then the Transamerica, the other big ones around, because I just love it. It's just time. That's really just time.
Yeah.
You could take years. You could do partial.
Yeah.
You could do it in 3 or 4 months. It depends on how much you want to push and what kind of time you can dedicate. But I said one day I'm going to through hike this, which means beginning to end. That's my goal.
Right.
So my father, who is almost 65, will be 65 in November, said, I've always wanted to do that too. And I didn't know that. He loves.
And you looked at this guy, and he's heavy, and he's older, and.
But I saw potential. I'm like, if you think you can do it, you can do it.
Oh, that positivity, John.
And I'm like I said, I'm overly optimistic. People, someone says you can do it, I believe you. Prove me wrong. Do it. You can do it.
Right.
So I said to him, I made him a promise. I said, would you like to do it before you're 70? He's like, yeah, I had to, get in shape and everything. I said, I'll tell you what, you get in shape and I'll do it with you. I said, and I will help you get in shape if you want me to. You have to want to do it, but I will help you because I think this would be awesome if we could do this together. And so he went out for a walk by himself. Yeah. Unfortunately, pulled a muscle in his hip. Right, pulled a hip flexor. He thought he had a back problem, but ended up being a hip flexor issue. But he is at that point. Said, I need to take control of my my health more.
Right.
So he started eating with me the way I eat.
Right.
And just little bits of change. Drinking a gallon of water a day. And drinking this coffee a little different, no sugar, and eating more greens. He was like me. He is like me, where we love good food. So big steak, big salad, everything. So it's cutting it back and measuring it. I got him into. I use the Lose It app to track my food.
Yep.
And that was one of the things. He's like, "Oh, there's a lot of tracking on what we're eating."
It's important.
It's very important. So I showed him the app. I showed him how to use it. He's like, "Wow, this makes things a lot easier." It tracks your nutrients as you go. So you pop it in or pop in what you think you're going to eat, and it tells you where you're going to be. And he's doing great with it already.
I want to pause real quick on that, John, because it's I think for people to understand with these tracking apps, because I used MyFitnessPal, there's several benefits real quick that and you're teaching this old dog a new trick here, your father, that one, especially at his age too. Now he's older, man. He's had habits that he's building for 65 years, but he probably has no idea really what he's eating. He was probably just eating. When you track your food, and as tedious as it is, and trust me, I know, and I know John does too, some days you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to record everything. It's so important, and this is another thing I've seen in the success of people. it creates an awareness. You suddenly are aware of what's going in at the pie hole, I call it, up into there.
Yep.
So that's the first thing I see. Okay. And people don't like it, but you have to be, if you've got problems with your health and that are starting in your mouth, you have to pay attention to that. And the tracking app helps you with that. I mean, you can track it on paper too, but nowadays with these apps, it's fantastic because the next thing it does, it kind of it educates you on the calorie content and the quality, the nutritional quality of the food. And it's like, oh, who cares? Well, there's a big difference between 100 calories of broccoli and 100 calories of a Snickers bar.
Absolutely.
And they're not the same.
Not at all.
Calorie to calorie is not the same thing.
Right, absolutely, and I'm going to reference the compound effect again. One of the things, and it's something you and I have known, whether you read the book or not. You learn this as you track things. But one of the things that Darren said in the book is that if you want to change any habit, track it, because the simple fact of becoming aware of it, what you just said, will make you change your habit. You could say to someone, "Okay, don't change your eating at all. Just write down everything you eat."
Yep,
and people, after a week, you're like, I don't want to write down 5 donuts. I don't want to write down 6 pints of beer. I don't want, you get self-conscious almost. You're like, I don't want to write that,
Right.
And so just by the fact that you're becoming aware of it, you're like, oh man, what am I doing to myself? So that alone, without saying you're going to change your habits, will change your habits. And then once you decide to actually make a change, it's that much easier. But like you said, tracking it, and as I said before, I'm a very big data guy. So the points that you said where I can see my macros, I can see how many carbs, fats, and proteins I'm eating, and how much fiber I'm having, and how many calories I'm having.
Right.
That to me, that's huge. Plus, I also like seeing trends and graphs and things like that, where you can't get that on paper.
Right.
But if paper's your way, then do it.
I mean,
do it.
Nowadays it doesn't make sense anymore. Most people have computers and smartphones to be able to do that.
Right.
But so Dad's starting this now. He's got his own smartphone. You educated him on how to use it.
Yep.
And at first, did he balked a little bit at some point about it, or
so the first week we did a very bland menu.
Yep.
Right. I said, okay, here's what you're having for breakfast every day. Here's what you have for lunch for every day. Here's what you're having dinner for every day. It was the same thing every day for a week.
Yeah.
By day 5, he was like, we got to switch the menu up next week. He's like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Now me, I was utilitarian. I did it for 6 weeks straight.
Oh my gosh.
Same menu.
This is why we're brothers, man. I could do the same thing.
I powered through it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, as a single guy, I could prep my meals for the entire week in 2 hours on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. I was eating chicken and broccoli 2 meals every day.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was fine with me. But after a while, I get it. You want some variety.
Sure.
So I said, okay. I'm like, Dad, that's when the app started coming. I said, here, I planned this out for you because I know this stuff. It's easy. I said, but if you want to add something else, he's like, oh, I want to buy some salmon. Okay, fine. See where it falls in your ratios. Does it fit for what you need to do? Or technically, everything fits, but are you hitting the right numbers, and where do you need to fill in?
Yeah.
I said, if you want to make a different meal every night, you can.
Right.
But then you just have to track a different meal every night. To me, my thinking is different.
Right.
I don't want to spend the time on that.
It's more simple for you, but your father, it sounds like variety is a little more important to him to keep him interested.
Absolutely, and that's fine if that's what works. Right? That's like I've said. You got to do what works for you.
Yep.
If I told him he had to eat chicken and broccoli every meal for the next 2 months, he wouldn't do it. And I don't play. Most people wouldn't. So it's not just him, but most people wouldn't.
I'm like you. I could probably do the same thing. I just like over and over and over. That's how I've been staying. Right. But my wife is different. She's like, she says, "Here's another Terry, the same old, same old." She tells me.
One of the things that did for me, because of my love of food that you also share, is that doing that same meals, the same 3 meals every day, over and over and over for such a long period of time. I don't say completely broke me of my love, but it made me realize how utilitarian food can be.
Right.
It's like you need the fuel.
Right.
You need the right fuel.
Right.
It doesn't have to be something you're looking forward to. It's like I just put the fuel in my face and I keep going. So then now I can enjoy it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, did you find that it changed your mental association from some of those things? It's like I don't know. I eat a big bag of vegetables every day for lunch.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of look forward to it when I even though I literally eat the same thing every day, but I just love it. I mix salsa with hummus.
Yum.
I vary the hummus, but it's mostly salsa with a dollop of hummus in it. I mix it up, and I do broccoli, baby carrots, celery, and what is it? Tomato, little cherry tomatoes, and I think radish I do in it. And
nice.
but I eat it like every day. Right. And I bring a big bag of it. And I see my coworkers kind of look at me tilted, like, wow, like every day, it's just simple. I don't want to have to think about it.
Exactly.
But Dad needs a little. He needs a little variety. So you did that with him. He has the salmon, a few other things. It sounds like you shook it up.
Yep.
And this is just recent too, so it's not
it's been on 2 weeks.
Right. But you got him to start. Yes. This is the thing. That's not always easy to do. And I have a lot of friends, like, I've said that, who come to me and ask me about, how do I get so-and-so to do it? He had to be willing.
Yes.
You found an in with him. You found something like this hiking. Dude, you might got me on this too. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I can't not.
Okay.
I know I can't promise anything, but boy, did it just pique my interest. Hiking the trail, yeah. But it's that emotional connection.
Yeah.
It's just like the emotional connection we talked about with food. I mean, I think that when you can find that, that's the motivation that people need to figure out that, yeah, this is something that is better than all the hard work. You flipped it.
Got to find your why. When you find people, and I'll take it back a step to my background in sales, right? That's how anything is sold. That's how we sell things on ourselves. How to sell ourselves on things.
Right.
So sales doesn't necessarily mean somebody's coming to your door to sell you a vacuum cleaner.
Right.
It's like convincing yourself to do something is sales. Convincing someone to do something on their own.
Right.
You're not making any money on it, but it's still sales. It's a sales. The process is the same. And it's all about finding your why. What's the value to you for doing this? The value for me might be different from the value for you.
Exactly.
It's different than the value for my father. It's different than the value for everyone. But when you find what the value, what the motivator is, what that value is, what your why is,
right,
that's where you hook someone to do and to do the right thing in this case, to take care of yourself because of why? Because you want to hike the trail. Because I want to be there for my kids. Because I want to see my grandkids get married. Because I want to live to 100.
Right.
Whatever is important to them. I want to travel the world.
Yep.
You can't travel the world if you're in a wheelchair. I mean, you can, but are you going to enjoy
but
it?
It's that much less pleasure. You probably can't go into certain attractions and whatever. Right. You're limiting yourself.
Right.
And why not live? We don't know what hand we're going to be dealt in life. We certainly have genetic factors that cause limitations in our lives. We end up with conditions, chronic conditions. But whatever we can control, why not?
Right.
You can control what goes in your mouth, even though some days, I tell you, I don't know if I can. I feel that grip around me sometimes with a Boston cream cake. But but sometimes but you got to learn how to control those things. Your physical activity, yeah, sure, you've got I get people who tell me, well, I got bad knees, bad back, and this and that, and I'm like, well, what can you do?
Right.
It's one of the things I found when you talk about find your why, I talk about almost a similar thing. It's like when you start making excuses why you should do something as opposed to not.
Yes. Making
excuses to go out. And it's like every weekend I go in the morning. It's been going on for years, and I don't even know why I still ask, but I go to Terry and go, do you mind if I go hiking today? And every day she's like, I know you go every weekend, and I'm like, yeah, but I just want to make sure that you didn't want to spend time together, or if you want to come with me. But I'm always looking for an excuse to kind of do something for myself because it's a different mindset,
right,
as opposed to kind of just always making all those excuses why the why you shouldn't.
Right.
And there are a million whys, but to really, once you change it, you don't really think about the why you shouldn't anymore.
Right.
Because there are a lot, right, John? I mean, you got a lot of things that I should be focusing on my business more.
Right.
John, I'm letting my house fall apart, and it's like because I'd rather be out hiking instead of fixing my ugly siding. Because to me, I'm never going to regret that my house had ugly siding.
Right. With
all the years I'm spending hiking now.
Right. And that's another thing people talk about, like deathbed regrets, right? Nobody ever regrets that they didn't work more, or they didn't regret that they painted their house again, or they regret not going out and living. Yeah. Or the overwhelming things when people are dying, they say, damn, I really wish I did this.
that was the thing when my father died, and we talked about. I know you read my dad's story, and it is gripping. It's hard. But when dad died, I saw regret in his face. And I think for me, and hopefully, none of you guys have to go through that. And unfortunately, I know you haven't with that. But it's when you see somebody kind of look back on their life and they're like, oh shit, And I truly feel that. And so my why became a little different for me initially because I was just kind of like, I don't want to do it. And like you said, it's like if you're waiting for the perfect moment. I mean, I was 400 something pounds. I don't even know how much, but I just like, screw it. One of the things you mentioned earlier too, and we could have listeners on here, some of them are like, well, where the heck am I going to start? Well, I say, and I'm curious what you say, just start.
Just start.
Where?
So,
just figure it out. I mean,
I had a buddy email me yesterday. He's a former rugby player in high school. We have our alumni game coming up in June, like we do every year. He said, "Hey, I really want to play the game this year."
Yeah.
And he's not played any of the alumni games prior.
Okay.
And I said, "Awesome." He's like, "But I need to start running. Where should I start?" And I said, he's like, "'Cause I want to be able to run on the field."
Sure.
And I said, "Oh, perfect. It's March. The game's in June."
Oh, geez,
I said, you get plenty of time. I said, "Do you?" He's like, "But I smoke." He's like, "Just want to let you, so go easy on me."
Okay.
I said, "Okay. Well, do you do any running now?" He said, "No, I just lift."
Yep.
I said, "Okay."
Okay, well, that's
said,
yeah.
So you have, I didn't delve into that too far. I said, "Okay." I said, "Here's what I recommend." I said, 3 days a week, go out for a mile walk.
Yep.
For the first 2 weeks.
Yep.
Just go out and walk a mile and get used to it. On week 3, add another day and start running a quarter of that mile, right? So you're doing 4 days, you're running a quarter, walking 3 quarters. I said, if you can do more, good, do it. But don't kill yourself. Don't say you can do a day.
That's what you talked about. Don't set it too high that you get discouraged,
and then the next week, run half a mile if you can.
Yep.
On those 4 days. Then the next week, and just keep layering it in until you can't, and just stay there until you can. And then the next week, add on.
Right.
And challenge yourself. And from that point, again, you're building. So, and I said that's what I started on my personal journey. I said I'm not going to be able to run at 330 pounds. Right. I could. I did a little bit, but I was winded in 2 minutes.
And it's probably going to wreck your knees and your back.
And give yourself a heart attack, right?
Sure, that too. Yeah.
When I was in the fire department, share this story. This was my first real health, I say scare. There's a thing called the CPAT, the Connecticut, the Candidate Physical Aptitude Test.
Oh, okay.
So when you're trying to get on, because I was a volunteer, Newtown's 100% volunteer, 300 wonderful people, 5 departments plus the ambulance.
Wow.
Didn't have a need for paid personnel,
right.
Fortunately, which is nice for the town, but it was a great community, right? And I learned a lot of things, a lot of things, a lot about who I was and who I wanted to be, and a lot of stuff there. But when you right about that time, a lot of departments started using this standardized physical test, and physical and written, called the Candidate Physical Aptitude Test.
Yeah,
and it was a standardized set of physical physical obstacle course, basically.
Yep.
To go through, and if you pass that, you got a valid card, validation card. And you could go to when you apply, say, "Yeah, I passed."
It's
this
almost
test.
like what the police go through, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay. Again, I was still in my I'm invincible. I'm a fireman. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
So I decided to go take this test, right? Because I had taken the written in Fairfield. I was an EMT already. I had all the certifications that they needed.
Sure.
Except for this one piece. That's okay. I drive up to wherever the test was held at the time, and the first test is a Stairmaster for. It's definitely over a minute. It's 60 minutes or 60 seconds or 120. It's somewhere at a certain pace.
Yep.
Carrying a certain amount of weight on your shoulders.
Yep.
To simulate carrying gear up or person
gear,
up the stairs.
Yeah.
And it's 10 stations. After the first station,
yeah,
my heart was pounding through my chest.
Oh, good.
I was about 260 pounds right at that time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so then my head is swimming.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to finish this.
Really?
So I run to the next thing, and I'm going through the motions, but I don't feel good.
Oh,
I'm
gee.
like, this is really, because I didn't expect it either. I'm
No,
like,
no,
oh,
yeah.
I'm in good shape. I do firefighting stuff every day.
Sure, yeah.
So I get to the last station.
Yeah.
I just about completed it.
Wow.
I walk over to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I go in the bathroom and I start blacking out.
Seriously.
And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I need help. Like I'm not someone, I'll drive myself, with an arm cut off to the, like I don't ask for help.
Typical.
Especially at being an EMT, I feel like I can diagnose
macho,
myself.
I got this.
Right.
Yeah.
So I walk out of the room and I'm like, I need help. I'm like, I can't see right and everything. So they call an ambulance. They took me away. I went for stress tests and everything like that afterwards to see what happened.
Yeah.
And they said, you have exercise-induced ventricular tachycardia. Basically, my ventricles were pumping so fast
They couldn't keep
the blood flow through. So I was passing out because there wasn't enough blood to pump. It wasn't moving. It was moving. The ventricles pumping too fast, and the blood wasn't able to circulate properly. So it's like they're like, oh, you're gonna have to go on beta blockers, or you're gonna have to do ramp down your activity, and I at that point I was like, f that. I'm like,
yeah. How old were you at the time, roughly?
I was way before I was married, so 23, 22.
Oh, you're a young guy.
Yeah, I was young. 22 maybe.
Wow.
21. It was young, but it was it was enough out of high school to where I wasn't in activity anymore.
Right, but
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you didn't expect that at that age, right?
No. So that's when that was like my first thing. I was like, I need to get in shape, and that's when I started doing like the Weight Watchers and doing stuff. And I was fine. I never had an issue with that ever again. But that is always in my mind. I'm like, okay, if I get so out of shape, that could happen again.
Yep.
But now, I run. I told you, I've been running like crazy. And
Isn't that weird? And you're so much older. I don't know if you want to tell how old you are, but
I'm 39. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 10 years apart, so
yeah. And
sunny.
Bye, cracky.
Yeah.
But now I pushed myself. And I said, I'm not going to let that be an excuse. I'm not going to go on any beta blockers. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. I'm going to get myself back into my physical form, and I'm going to be able to do this without that. And I'm not knocking. I should say I'm not knocking. If somebody really needs something, then you should get the help you need. But for me, I said, this is me being a fat ass. Basically, is what
if you
the way I
can
looked
fix
at it.
this without medication.
Yes.
So you may see me sometimes talking about lifestyle medicine. I talk about these things and people don't even know what the heck I'm talking. It sounds like this crazy thing, but what you did was lifestyle medicine in that you said, okay, they're going to offer me these pills, and okay, yeah, and I you said, yeah, if people need them, but you decided instead to say, let me try to fix my habits first before we do this, before I get hooked on these pills, and at 23 or 20, whatever,
low 20s,
to be on something like that is crazy.
Right.
But I think not enough people are thinking like that. And I'm not recommending either to people that you don't take these things because it could be life-threatening. But on the other hand, push back on your doctors to say, are there other things that I can do besides taking pills to help treat this thing? If you're telling you got diabetes or any of these things, 9 times out of 10, most of these problems, as John discovered, are what's going through your mouth, what your health habits are. There's other things too with lifestyle medicine, but as
Americans especially, and I would say most of Western civilization, but Americans, we have the pill for every ill mentality.
Oh my gosh!
And we want the instant gratification of a quick fix.
Oh.
And again,
there's a cost, isn't there?
There's a huge cost to that, and I think that one thing you and I talked about was getting surgery, getting weight loss surgery. Right? 'Cause I've had friends that go through it. You've had friends. You sat through a seminar or a consultation about it.
I did.
I never considered it for myself, and I'll tell you why. I said to myself, I was one of those, when I'm ready, I'll lose the weight, and that's what I'm doing because I was ready when I finally hit it. But I also knew from the beginning, from the people that I had known that had gotten the surgery, who had all gained, pretty much all of them had gained the weight back.
That's what I've seen. Yeah,
you don't learn good habits.
Yes.
From weight loss surgery, and again, if somebody feels that they need it and there's a specific situation where it's needed, then you do what you need to do.
I'm the same way. I don't.
No judgment, right?
Right. I don't down it either.
But for me, I knew that I needed to learn the good habits and I needed to take the hard road. And it's made the difference for me.
I've had people even yell at me about that, and they said, it's hard work. I do know of 2 people, but there's probably more, and I'm sure there's listeners out here who know of folks who've done it. And again, emphasizing, and John emphasized it too. We're not downing it, but on the other hand, it does for guys like us, and it because they do. I know the programs nowadays do teach people how to sustain it, and they're really focused on that because obviously they know the numbers that are happening. I even know of one person who died from complications from the surgery.
I know someone who almost died. A friend's mother did, but yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Is like these are it's all the surgery. If you think about it, and I don't know if you thought of it this way, is really just forcing you to take in less. That's all it's doing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
So
whether
they-
you get the gastric bypass or you get the lap band, or
Right.
it's decreasing the size of your stomach
Right.
in some way to make you feel full.
Forcing you to
right,
be
forcing, right?
Right. Whereas if you just learn how to reduce, it's better because you're not really learning. When you force yourself to take in less, all you're teaching yourself, in my opinion, this is my opinion, okay? And I only got a bachelor's degree in psych, so I'm not like, but in my opinion, you're still learning how to eat to capacity each time. And there's a big difference between eating to capacity and eating to satiation.
Yes.
And I don't know that you're learning that with this. Please, if people want to talk about that, and I'd be happy to have folks on here to talk about that. But, guys like John and I have gone on to say, for us, it wasn't right. For some people, it might be. I do know some people, I think, because they're so far that quote, jumpstart might help, but they're going to need intensive work. As Mike always says, it matters least the path you take to get there. It matters most what you do after.
Yes.
And anyway, John, we've kind of segued from it, but I think it's a good point that, people understand there's a lot of paths here, and that's why I wanted to kind of, we pause for that and just make sure that people understand where you stand on it.
Yeah, I like I said, I have a friend that got the lap band recently.
Yep.
And I'm, I said more power to her. And completely no judgment to anyone who feels that that's the right choice for them. Just be consistent afterwards. You gotta
Right.
run with. You're giving yourself a chance. You're giving yourself a very invasive, basically traumatic,
Right.
Opportunity.
Right.
So make the most of it.
That's the thing, right? And they weigh out the risk, and if it seems, in the end, and I think you get this too. If in the end it gives them the overall health that they needed, that's the
that's
point
most
of it.
important,
Right?
Yeah.
Right. One of the things we talked about, this is becoming a long conversation. This is awesome. I love it, John. We even said that it might take a while, but there was one thing I wanted to touch on before we get the musical part, and that's part of some of the things that excite me because we've got a lot of friends in the music industry here, and especially in the local scene, and I wanted to just touch on a couple things that intrigued me, and what was the other piece I wanted, besides the fact that I know you as a friend, and we hang out at the shows. We just love metal. I can't help myself. It's in my blood. I'm just like, I don't know, something about a blast beat of drums, and it's so it's funny. It's so weird that all my friends are rock stars. It is just like you guys make me feel like a rock star sometimes. It's just it's such a cool. Oh, dude, please. Okay, you are. You're right. You're right. But I wonder because you guys are always out playing in bars, and which is the majority of what the venues are, and you're around beer, you're around. Let's face it. I hate to be blunt. Drugs.
Blunt.
And,
Nice pun.
Yeah. And unhealthy bar food.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And and guys, and I'm not. A lot of our friends struggle, and it's hard because I see some of my friends come to me with alcohol addictions and things like that, and struggle. And how do you, it's hard to balance it even in that realm too. You see a lot of things. A lot of our friends. There's a lot of you guys out there who I'll actually be talking to, and who are making it in this with these challenges as a musician. And do you find there are challenges in that environment?
It's extremely challenging. But I will say that to me, my personal struggle, it's a self-control challenge.
Yep.
Right? So it's very easy. You go out to a show, whether you're attending or performing.
Right.
And You might want to have a shot to loosen up.
Right.
Or people always want to buy you shots during or after the performance.
Sure.
Or you want to stay and watch the rest of the bands and drink, and then go to the diner at 4 o'clock in the morning after everything wraps up, right? And get cheese fries or gravy, and and then it's very easy to eat horribly. And, a lot of times you're up there performing, or even in the crowd. If it's a hot day, you're sweating your ass off.
Yep.
You're like, oh, yeah, I'm working out. I'm running around. I can have a couple beers. And you know what? Like I said, it's a self-control thing. I remember distinctly the first show I went to when I started this, and I was playing.
Yep.
And I said, I'm just going to have water.
Yep.
And I think I had a little handy pack of almonds or something like that, a handful of almonds. So I had
hopeful.
I had stopped eating for the day.
Oh gosh.
I said I might need a little snack later, so I'll bring some almonds with me.
Yep.
And so I'm sitting in one of our local venues.
Yep.
And I'm eating almonds.
Yeah.
And I'm chugging water. And so he's like,
Oh,
want a
gosh.
beer? Can I buy you? No. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And it's hard when everyone around you.
Yep.
It's not even
Peer pressure.
Well, I was gonna say it's not even peer pressure, right?
Oh.
Like, sometimes it's like, come on, have a drink, but it's not even that. It's like you want to be enjoying it, and you see everybody else enjoying it, so it's self pressure.
Yeah, it is.
It's like,
it is.
oh, I want to be part of that. And plus, I love beer and I love shitty food.
Well, and that's hard too because it's that self control aspect too. Because you want to maybe I'll have one.
Right. So, and I did that for a couple months where I would not drink at shows. I did have a couple shows where where I probably had a couple too many, in the course of the night.
Yep.
I've never considered myself having a problem, but again, you're sweating a lot, you're running around. You sometimes you lose track of it, and you have a couple, and you're like, at the end of the night, you're like, whoa.
Yep.
So I started limiting myself just because of that. But when I go out now.
Yep.
And I try. I would say one of my personal things that I do is I try not to drink during the week at all. And I'm very successful at that.
Okay, so you set yourself you allow yourself a time period to kind of stay away from it so that when you get it, it's a treat.
Right. And I don't drink to drink anymore.
Yeah.
If I go to a bar and it's all stuff I've had before.
Right.
I've
already had it.
Right. I've liked trying new beers. And
right.
And I don't feel at this point in my life where I need to keep drinking, Guinness and I never like Bud Light and any of that crap.
Yeah.
So if that's all they got, then I'll drink water, and I have no problem with that.
Yep.
If I go somewhere, I give myself ahead of time. I said permission, like I was saying to you, I think before the show. I say, okay, if I'm going to go out tonight, I'll let myself have one beer.
Yeah.
And I stick to it.
Yep.
Most of the time.
Yep.
Sometimes you don't, but that's okay too. But I don't get upset with myself.
Right.
I just try and do better the next time.
Right. That's awesome.
But again, I try just not to. And that alone, just that alone, has helped me with, my health goals. It's a lot of empty calories.
It is, and it is, and I feel. Because like you said, I'm an attendee in a lot of these shows, and I'm going there, and there's a lot of these local venues that I go to. I think my friends now know. A lot of them know. I'm Mr. Seltzer there when I go, and there was on a couple occasions I've had somebody offer me a drink, insist on buying me a drink, and I did have one. I gave in a little bit, and I find for myself because one, I just don't feel like drinking the calories, and so that's kind of a personal choice. Two, because I have had problems in the past controlling myself with alcohol, that I've not done it. But it is, you do that piece you mentioned that was really is like you kind of want to be part of that crowd. They're all sitting up at the bar and they're laughing, and it's like you're sitting there with a water, or the guy, or you're out. This is what I like too. So we're at the show and everybody's like, raise your drink. They're all holding their drinks up, and you're like, yeah.
You grab a water. You grab somebody else's drink that they left. It's just a cup of ice at this point. We just hold up so you have something to hold. But I think that you also find out who you actually really mesh with and who's really interesting and who's not. Just,
that's true.
Because you're right. Some people, I think that when the drinking or the drugs or whatever, and I don't do drugs. Just that's never been appealed to me. But I love my beer.
Right.
But when that becomes the focal point, that's when it becomes an issue.
Right.
If you have a glass of wine with dinner, that's not an issue.
Right.
If you're getting together just to get shit-faced with your friends, that's an issue.
And I know a lot of, and I'm not putting it down, but I think a lot of people go out with that goal in mind to think, I'm going to, well, give you an example. Tomorrow is my birthday, although I don't know when this is going to come out.
Happy birthday, Mike.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, well, by the time, let's see, at this point, I don't know if it's going to come out by then, but maybe it'll come out tomorrow on itself, so it'll be the day. But I know there'll be people trying to offer to buy me drinks, and it's like, you feel bad, and you're like, well, you can, sometimes you can buy me a seltzer, But there's that same kind of thing where it's like celebratory, right? But then I've seen people come out on their birthdays and say, well, I'm going to get effed up.
Yeah.
And, like you said, I mean, what's the point of doing it? Well, I mean, some people, they like to do it, but then it's like, what kind of risks are you in? And,
you have a whole lot of risks.
Doing it? Well, yeah. I mean, they know that. I mean, I think people make a personal choice. And I think, I mean,
I've been there too. Like, I've done it.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore. It's just
it sucks as we get older, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sucks as we get older, and it's not a judgment thing. I think, again, it's a personal choice.
Yeah.
We even talked about this earlier. I really think, having said everything we said, we're not telling everybody out here, hey, this is the life for you. But if you are looking for answers, and if you are looking to get healthier, there are answers, and there are things you can do. But your health is your own personal choice. If you enjoy smoking and you enjoy, drinking and all that, and somewhat responsibly at least, if you're not hurting yourself and others, then that's fine. I mean, that's your choice. It's your body,
Absolutely.
Your life, and I can't judge that, and I don't judge. But I do feel bad for people watching people struggle.
Yes.
And using those things as an escape, because there's no life at the bottom of a bottle. There's, or any of these other things that are a substance. And food. I mean, food clearly, John and I were talking, oh my gosh, we found out, like, we're both from, different backgrounds in some ways, but then we found out that we're very, very similar. And oh my gosh, I mean, a voracious love of food. And I didn't stop loving it. I won't stop loving it. I don't want to stop loving it. And, some of these things you make choices. So at the bars, when I'm out, because I'm often, almost once a week now, I'm going out and hanging out in bars, and I don't drink because I want to come out and hang out and rock out with my friends. And, so yeah, it's interesting challenges. I don't know if you think of anything else, but so let's talk a little bit. So you're in a band called Deathcode.
I am.
And you're a bass player.
I am.
And then you're another one, Crimson?
Crimson, yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And Mike is it's funny. I'm 10 years older than John, but in between our times, so I grew up in the 80s with the bands like Slayer and Death and all that stuff, and a lot of guys, younger guys like it too. But at the same time, I don't know any genres, anything that. So Deathcode, how would you describe their
Deathcode? I would say we are hard rock and punk.
Yep.
A little bit of metal.
Yep.
But we have our toe in the water in a couple different genres.
My gosh, yeah.
We try to be pretty groovy.
Yep.
We have some good bass lines, if I do say myself. But we our philosophy is really not to stick to a specific genre.
Yep.
We don't go into the jamming process or the writing process and say we're going to write punk songs, or we're going to write metal songs. We just start jamming.
Yep.
And we record. We have a little recorder going almost all times when we're jamming, and then our singer Tony will take it and splice it up into the different riffs that we've done.
Yep.
And he has a folder with 400 different riffs that we've recorded to say, okay, one day we'll pull this one out and make it into a song. Pull this one out and make it into a song. So whatever works for us. We're just doing it for us.
Yep.
And some of our songs are classic rock. Some of them are straight punk.
Yep.
Some of them are I won't say new metal, but have a little bit of a rap going on.
Okay.
All different kinds of stuff.
We can't fit you in a box then.
No.
I like that.
No. That's it's a very fun project.
It's very different the way you eat, huh? It's like this whole
Right.
It's not like the same old every day.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
I definitely would agree when I say that.
Yeah. And so we, like I said, we try and have fun. We try and keep it fresh. We try and, like I said, we just write what feels fun, what hits us at the moment. half the time we'll be saying, okay, we're going to work on this song, and then somebody will start jamming on something else, myself or Jay, the guitarist, or Chris will say, oh, play this, and then we'll go off on a completely different tangent, and then we have a new song all of a sudden, and we weren't even thinking about it. So that's cool. And then but I really like it. I really, it's just a fun project. Crim Song was more in a specific genre. We are the symphonic, like operatic metal almost.
Okay, and I haven't caught them yet.
We're on a hiatus.
Okay.
So probably not going to see.
Not yet,
but
I'll have to go out and check out what you got out there.
We have some stuff on YouTube and stuff like that, and we do have an album we recorded that we're still working on getting it published. But it's more of a, if you know, like the Epicas and the Nightwish and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And Liz is a singer, and I've actually worked on her with a couple other projects.
Awesome.
We did a project, an Epica tribute. A project, one-time show at Ralph's Rock Cafe last Halloween.
Oh, cool!
So and her and her fiance Francisco, who is a local drummer. He's in a lot of different projects.
Yeah.
They have a project, Policia, now. They're a police cover band.
Yeah.
So they're good people to work with too. Like I love working with them and the other people that were in Crim Song as well. But it's just a fun thing. And then other music projects, if they've come up, I did a charity show last year. It's just a cover show. I love playing. I just love. Yeah, I know playing.
You say just whatever. Getting out.
Yeah.
And just doing it.
Yeah, it's fun and bass is actually my newest instrument.
Really? Yeah. So what do you play?
I play trumpet, cello, guitar, and bass.
That's amazing.
So I'm classically trained in guitar, in cello, and trumpet.
Yep.
Starting at age 7, 8, and then I picked up the guitar in high school, and I picked up the bass 4 years ago now.
Oh wow!
And but I already had the musical principles, so I'm like, okay, I can figure this out. And by no means do I consider myself a pro at the bass, but I enjoy it a lot, and I think it might be the newness, or it might just be the freedom I have with it. But I love playing the bass.
I could tell, the time I got to see it was just like, oh, wow. And you have some nice, I don't know much about musical instruments. You look like you have a couple of nice bass guitars there, I saw.
I do.
You mind talking about it a little bit?
I got my first one for free from a friend.
Oh, wow.
He said, hey, here, have this bass, practice with it before I had any. And then that quickly led into me saying, okay, I need to get, a better bass. It was like I don't want to say a knockoff, but it was like a starter bass.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I went out and bought a Yamaha 4-string,
nice.
And I loved that one. And then I said, I need a 5-string because we're going to try some different things. So I bought an Ibanez 5-string.
I think that's was that what you were playing at the Halloween time show, or is that?
That was my second Ibanez 5-string.
Okay.
So I have 2 Ibanez's. I have a Yamaha. I have 6 basses now. I have an acoustic bass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I don't think I've seen one of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's become an obsession. I've kind of
Nice.
toned down now. It's not a cheap obsession, but
Yeah.
But I love playing. I love having variety. I love being able to if you have a guitar, you need a backup, of course, just in case. And,
Right.
And so, it grows out of that. But yeah.
I just love, it's funny, and since we've become friends, and we haven't had a chance to hang out a ton every time. We're both very busy, but I love coming out. Like it amazes me, and that's what a lot of you guys out there. Hopefully, a lot of my friends who are listening to us and who know us too. It's just how much it means to come out and I know you, and then I see you up on stage, and it's like, doing something that I've never done, and it's like, it's just such a cool thing to see, because, that's what brings me out all the time, to see these shows. It's that personal connection. It's like, Absolutely. There's my buddy up there, and he's doing that. Some of my friends are like, oh, you're going to go up and do that thing there, right? And it's amazing. You guys are so talented, and it's such a lot of fun. I look up to you guys, the stuff that you do, because to get up and coordinate and play all together, and it's funny how you guys will come off stage and it's like, oh, how'd that sound, or you're like, I didn't do a good job on this and that, and to us, especially as lay people, we're like, wow, that was friggin' awesome, because I couldn't do it.
One thing that you learn early on, I think, or that you have to learn early on, you may think you suck a specific night, and maybe you did. Maybe
Right.
Maybe you did get drunk and
sure.
forgot your
And
lines.
there are times, right?
You're right. Maybe something catastrophic happened.
But we don't know.
9 times out of 10,
We didn't notice.
you're the one that know the song
Yeah.
the best. The other people don't know. As long as you keep going,
Yep.
if you mess something up,
Oh
it's
my
okay.
gosh.
And nobody's going to know any better.
It's funny. We talk about that in public speaking. So I think I mentioned I'm in Toastmasters,
Yep.
the international speaking organization. And, I tend to be, you guys see sometimes I post on there, I'm always winning the speech contest for the night for the 3 or 4 speeches. And part of it is you just get up there and you just keep going. And we talk about that. It's like people aren't going to notice if you forget part of your speech as long as it connects.
Right.
But I've seen people who in the middle of the speech like, oh dang, and they stop themselves
Right.
and they make it obvious, like you're saying, just like a musician in some ways, where you're up there, you got that performance sort of anxiety, but it's like, nope, just if you're good, you just
keep going.
just have fun.
Absolutely.
And that's part of it too. I definitely saw, again, just like with the smile I see on you when you're posting about your health improvements, it's that same smile getting up, and I can definitely tell you just love getting. I mean, why would you do it? You're not making money from this. It's a passion.
It's a labor of love. Well, definitely a lot more money going into it than coming out of it at this level. And I think that obviously a lot of our people are in the same boat. We
Right.
do it for the love of the music.
Yep.
And and we do it for the love of the songs that we're writing. If nobody likes it, that's okay. We like it.
Right, you're not
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're happy we produce something that we enjoy, and if other people can enjoy it as well, that's a bonus. Again, expectations.
It's like
a bonus.
It's like a painting. My wife paints, and it's like it's a part of you. When you write a song and somebody says they like it, you're like, wow, this is my baby.
Right.
You
Right,
know?
absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we're real quick. Influences musically. Anything you want to share?
Well,
I mean, you
No.
How much time do we got? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. No. I'm just
stretching,
I'm just There's probably a lot of influences, right? But I mean,
so I would say that my absolute favorite bassists are Steve Harris from Iron Maiden.
oh yeah,
I mean, he's
Yep.
the best. He's the absolute best.
yeah. I could see influence too.
And then Cliff Burton.
Yep.
From Metallica.
Yep.
Who unfortunately died. Right.
Right,
In
right.
in '86, but Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning were two of my
Yeah.
most influential early metal albums. I think that and as much as a dick as he's become, Jerry Only from the Misfits.
I've met him a couple of times.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah.
And he's so full of himself. But you know what?
What's funny? He is, but
It's good. But the music's awesome.
He'll stay after the show though, and
Yeah.
at least talk to everybody and
yes.
take pictures.
Yep.
But hey,
Yeah.
some of them.
Yep.
Cool.
But those guys, Pete Steele
Yep.
from Typo Negative.
Okay, yep.
Singer and bassist.
Yep.
I think that those guys have been my
top.
my biggest. Yeah, and then even stuff like Chris Novoselic from Nirvana.
Yeah.
Nirvana was
Yeah.
one of my first bands I loved so much. And
He's a goofy guy,
Right.
but did you see what he does now? Isn't he in politics? Or something?
yeah, I think he's in politics, right?
He's got no hair.
Right. Yep. I loved. I don't know if you saw. It was a concert. Was it a concert for George
Yep.
or some tribute? Was it Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I can't remember. It was
Yeah.
something that was televised. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
And it was Pat Smear, Dave Grohl, and Chris Novoselic back on stage.
Really?
With Paul McCartney playing and singing with them.
Come on, I gotta see this.
Yeah, that was like 5-6 years ago now, or maybe longer.
I
but
can't believe
I was like, like musician instant arousal type thing, because it's like
Yeah.
what an awesome for me.
Yeah.
Loving the Beatles, and there's another bass influence, Paul McCartney.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Paul's awesome.
Yeah.
So seeing those two together. Something
Yeah.
I grew up with, because all I listened to when I was growing up was oldies. That's
Yep.
my parents.
Yep.
I didn't listen to anything past like 72. And then once I hit middle school, I discovered modern music, because I figured, if I wanted to get with, like friends with girls and stuff,
Exactly.
they wouldn't want somebody to just listen
Yeah.
to. So then listening to Nirvana and that kind of stuff, and then seeing the fusion of the two, I
Right.
was like, this is amazing.
I gotta check that out,
Yeah.
man.
I'll watch it after the show. I'll show you
Yeah,
the YouTube
yeah.
video.
So bands that you're into or have been into that influence you, or just you like?
So my top 3 bands have not changed for a while.
Okay.
It's Iron Maiden is number one. Typo Negative.
Yep.
And Cradle of Filth.
Cradle of Filth.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you know?
I know of them. You know what's funny? I never got. Again, we're different generations, and so I know of them. I probably listen to their stuff, but they're definitely, I know they're really influential bands. So
yeah, they came out in the '90s. They're just a black metal, But the thing I liked about them compared to most other, like we talked about Deicide before, right? Like they're,
but just evil.
Danny Filth just has something with his voice.
Yeah,
he goes from growls to screams.
Yep.
But the music behind it is what really grabbed me.
Yeah,
it's very.
I imagine dark,
operatic and a lot of orchestra in it, and just it's just something about it that just does it for me. So those three have been my top three for a long time. The Beatles are definitely up there for overall bands.
Yep.
Nirvana is there.
Yep.
I would say even if it goes offbeat a little, if you looked at like The Dirty South is a band that I've gotten into recently.
Yeah. So what style is that? Like?
They are bluegrass.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to get into. He's like, so what outside of rock or metal? So you're into bluegrass?
I am an audiophile.
Okay,
I listen to
everything. Country.
I listen to country. I listen to some rap and R&B.
Yep.
Hey, now in those other genres, I don't necessarily go whole hog.
Yeah.
But I find things that I like.
There's a little of everything.
Marty Robbins, El Paso, old cowboy song.
Yep.
Love that song. Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight. It's just stuff that's good.
Yeah.
Even some Tupac stuff. And and some one band that was surprising for me, but I bought the album based on one song.
Yeah.
Was what's it called? Andre 3000 and Big Boy, right?
Yeah.
Outkast,
oh my gosh!
Outkast, because they're just great musicians.
Yep.
And so musically.
You're all over the gamut.
I just love music. I just love music. I've been recently getting into Shinedown.
Shinedown, not listening.
My girlfriend's favorite band.
Yep.
So I've gotten into them, and they're really good. It's not something. It's on the line of what I would have gravitated to by myself. They're hard rock, and but I never really got into them other than a couple things I heard on the radio.
Yep.
Up in Burlington, there's a band called Gang of Thieves. That is kind of like rock, jazz, funk, and it's a great band. They come down here. Actually, they play in Manchester all the time.
The name sounded familiar. Okay,
but they're just another great group of guys. So, but not something that I would typically. They're not metal punk.
Right. Not your typical main genre. So would you say you're mostly a metal punk guy, or
I would say that,
or you don't want to be categorized?
It's tough. It's tough to say. I would say in high school I was definitely alternative, goth, industrial. Yeah, so, that was my stuff.
Right. So Nirvana, things like that.
Nirvana, Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson. Those are the mainstream ones.
Yeah, and that was big that time period. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, metal. I mean, Guns N' Roses, Metallica were my first forays into metal, and they always have special spots in my heart. I love them both. Wow. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's so hard to say what's my favorite because I love everything. If it's got a good beat, it's got a good groove, then I'll Strawberry Alarm Clock, right? By
oh my
gosh,
I
was listening to that on the way over here because I was getting angry.
That's
so I got to put on my oldies fix.
Some hippie stuff, man.
But it's got good grooves.
Oh, I love it.
Them, the Hollies, like Bus Stop and Donovan and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like I love that stuff.
I love that psychedelic '60s kind of music. Yeah. There's a bunch of bands from that era. I mean, my father was that era of music. I grew up with ZZ Top too, and Black Sabbath.
Oh, I love Black Sabbath. I mean, thing about Black Sabbath, right? What they did for music, is incomparable, right? They set the path. But I would say that I almost like other people doing their songs better than they did.
Yeah.
I love Megadeth's version of Paranoid. I love who is it? Ugly Kid Joe's version of NIB.
Oh my gosh! I haven't heard that one.
I love White Zombie's version of Children of the Grave.
That's hilarious.
But without Sabbath, none of these bands would be here.
Yep.
So
definitely gods of metal, right?
They're awesome. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how. So, did you find that any of your parents' music influenced you? You were saying they listened to '70s music, and I think you did kind of talk about that. So what were some of the bands?
I mean, they were always Beatles freaks. They were oldies. They were like 50s, 60s, and early 70s.
It's funny, people. I hear two. Like, I like the Beatles. I like a lot of their songs, but I hear two camps. I mean, there's some people that can't stand them,
right. And I think that so the way I approach the Beatles, and I've listened to their whole catalog chronologically several times. Right, I'm going to start from the beginning of the Beatles to the end of the Beatles.
Very different too, weren't they?
I think that looking at them through today's musical lens, like okay, they were poppy, and then but when you think about when they started,
oh my gosh,
in the short period of time, what they did in that 8 years, 7, 8 years, was revolutionary for music. It hadn't been done before,
right?
And I think that you have to give major respect, whether you like them or not.
Yeah,
you have to give major respect to them.
You don't have to, right?
But so I'll always love the Beatles. But I love Elvis. I love Dean Martin. Dean Martin, man.
Oh gosh,
my father and I fight about that because
really?
He is an Elvis.
Me
freak.
too. I love Elvis.
I love too. But then I always say, but Dean's better.
I mean,
we fight about it.
I really think there was 3 things that I liked about Elvis. Okay, and I like. He was an over-the-top personality, which we can't deny, and I love that about performers. And so a lot of my favorite people, we know some of them, I won't mention names, who are just over-the-top performers, and that's probably why I'm so attracted to watching them, because the stage performance sometimes just gets me, and I love it. I love a lead singer who's just a ham, and it's great for me. Elvis definitely was. He was a little cheesy. He was like the William Shatner of. He was very cheesy. So I liked him for that. I feel he was a great singer.
Absolutely.
And in fact, I remember hearing Danzig sing, some of his stuff.
Yep.
And I
love Danzig.
I love Danzig too. Yeah. Of course, we're Misfits fans. So, and then the personality, he was a great sort of. It's kind of the same thing before. A performer in terms of, the dancing he was doing, people were looking at him and going, what the heck is this white guy doing up here, all this movement and stuff? And it was just kind of like controversial and he changed things, the way people looked at music. And there's this whole thing, I don't want to get into it, about him stealing stuff, from the black community and whatnot. But I mean, neither here nor there. Nobody can ever deny what he was.
Right, absolutely, and those were his roots. That's where he grew up. I mean, that's his very humble roots and his gospel upbringing, and singing in the choir and stuff like that. And so, he may have quote unquote stolen, but that's where he came from as well. So, I think that's just songs that he sang better than other people too, like In the Ghetto, right? Like In the Ghetto was a hit before.
Oh, that's probably one of my.
It's a great song.
Oh, I love that one. I love that one and Kentucky Rain.
Kentucky Rain. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
that's a great.
The rain in my shoe,
searching for you. Yeah, no, that's a great song. And again, it's limitless. The zombies, the turtles, the monkeys.
Oh my God! I saw Herman's Hermits at the Wolf Den, and I met Peter Noon, and just what a cool guy. Yeah. What a cool guy, and it was so fun. And there he was, just like, oh my God, you're the guy.
Yeah,
Mrs. Brown.
Had a lovely daughter.
Oh my gosh, cheesy, little cheeky.
Yeah.
The dude was up there, and he's like almost 7 years old, and he's jumping in the air and acting like a maniac. And I had a great time. People can say what they want about it. I mean, it's all how it reaches you. And that's the thing about music or anything, or when we're talking about health. It's like, if it reaches you emotionally and it makes you happy, and it's not hurting anybody. So who are we to judge? I mean, I have friends that are into all kinds of different music, and we might say, they stink, and that's fine. It's your opinion. But there's a lot of bands I don't like, but I still can't deny. I'm not a big Marilyn Manson fan, because I never really listened to his music. There's something I like a couple of his, but I've just never been a fan. I can't deny the impact the guy's had, and he's extremely talented. He's a weird dude. He's a really weird dude. Michael Jackson. I like some of Michael Jackson's music. I actually. Could we deny that he was a weird dude? He was a weird dude. I don't know. He was whatever. I don't want to get into his other personal stuff. But performer, I can't say. The guy was incredible. And it's interesting, to see that. I love music. Is just such a big part of our lives. You're in the industry. Playing music. I love to just listen to, and that's how, we become friends. And I think it's such a great way to people to kind of bond. And we found this new bond now in health. And I'm so excited that you and I are kind of, working together here. And you guys might see some more of me and John, no problem. Yeah, but we're talking. But I think that there's a lot of things we can do to kind of get out that inspiration I think people need, because it's tough. There's a lot of confusion out there. You guys are going to see some upcoming Mike Inspires Me stuff, talking with some, I got some big doctors. I'm hoping I'm going to get them pretty soon to start talking about, stuff about diets that are out there, and the confusion about what to eat and all those things. I think that's great. And, there's a lot of other aspects of health that I want to get out there, and, other people we can talk to. And John's had a great story. I've really enjoyed us being able to have this.
Amen. That's awesome.
John, I mean, we've talked, oh my gosh, over 2 hours. I love it. Hey, we beat my last one here.
Yes.
So this is awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to, we've talked about a lot of cool stuff here, and, certainly if people have questions, they know how to find us. But do you want to talk about, some ways people could reach you if they got questions about your journey, if you're interested?
Yeah, I'm always willing to talk. I like meeting new people. I like talking to people. I will talk to anyone about anything pretty much. Obviously on Facebook, Instagram, look me up. My business is Nexus Consulting. So our website's nexusconsultingsolutions.com. You can go there and find our contact info there.
Yeah, why don't you tell us just a little general if you want. You want
Sure.
to do a little plug for your business? Sure.
Yeah. We started in 2006. I own the company with a partner, and we work with mostly with construction, but really we work with anyone with technology solutions for making businesses better. We work with financial software and reporting and accounting, business analysis, anything that helps manage or run a business better, really, but with a focus on technology. That's really our forte. So whether it's a database report or it's a hosting solution or it's a custom app, we do all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's what we do.
And how can we look up your bands if we're interested?
Deathcode and Crim Song are both on Facebook. Deathcode is also on Bandcamp. You can look up our page there, and you can download our music if you would like to buy it. We appreciate that. We have an EP that we recorded locally with the help of Dexter's Labs, which is one of our local bests. Studios, and we appreciate all that we did with Nick, and Deathcode USA.com is our website.
That's awesome. Wow, John, this has been incredible. I really, one of the things is John and I have known each other for it seems like a long time I've known your brother, and it probably, maybe about a year or so we've known each other, but it's the connection we've had. I really like it. I feel like he's my brother, and, certainly in health, he's become just an incredible inspiration, and I'm so proud of all the work you're doing, and I'm glad that, we can help each other, kind of keep each other motivated and all this. And John, I wish you all the best, and we're going to keep pushing forward, and, we'll keep doing more things like this out there.
Sounds
to get people
great,
out there. John, thank you very much.
Thank
buddy.
you.
Stay awesome.